Hey, Anthony, can you hear me?
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we're good.
Did everyone receive the agenda packet with attachments and pictures from Karen?
Let me look.
Okay.
I did.
I don't think I did. I don't know if any of that pertains to what we're trying to do, but I don't know when it was sent, but I'm not seeing anything.
I think that might have gone only to the committee members only.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But we still have your documentation from last month, and I think we're good.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for having me too, by the way. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
We'll give it one more minute before we get started. I know Phil wasn't going to be able to make it this month. See if Patrick or Chris will be able to attend.
Anthony, I don't think Patrick was going to be able to attend this meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Mhm.
Well, I guess with that, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the October meeting of the Tree Committee 2020, 2 o'clock, October 6th. We'll begin with a roll call. Anthony Ladd with Public Works.
Ryan LaBelle with Public Works.
Ryan, Consumers Energy.
Deb Nichols with Consumers Energy.
Steve, I see you on here. Are you here at the meeting? Okay, we'll keep going then. Guest today, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself, Dave, and then Ryan.
Sure. My name's David Enger. I live at 418 Stuart Avenue. And my wife too, but she couldn't make it to the meeting. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me this to go around?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. I had to unmute myself through some control panel. So in the room with me is Tom Kupritz, myself, Steven Skalski's in our room with us. That's why he was talking into this mic. I also have Aaron Davenport with Jones and Henry Engineers and Alexis Contarosis with Jones and Henry Engineers. They're our consultants on the project that we have going on.
Fantastic. And Ryan, I don't know, did you say that you're with the city?
Maybe not this go around. Yes, Ryan Stoughton with the City of Kalamazoo Wastewater Engineering.
All right.
And then Tom Kupritz with process control for City of Kalamazoo.
Thank you. So in your packet, the first thing was the agenda for today. Do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Motion.
Second.
So moved. Next, we will minutes that were also included from last month's September meeting. Do we have a motion for that?
I didn't catch that.
Motion for the minutes from last month. Are there any comments, any reviews to the minutes?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I got it that time. All right. Moving right along to new business. We will begin with, I guess, what was old business last month, and then the second iteration of that today for the 418 Stuart tree removal. Mr. Enninger, just to recap, in your minutes, you can see last month there was a large tree in his curb lawn that was presented, causing issues for his home and his neighbor's adjacent home. They had come requesting approval to remove that tree, and it was passed by, well, there was a motion made to make an on-site visit to ensure that there were 2 additional planting spaces in that curb line between his both his property and his neighbors. And that's what Brian and I have made several site visits over the last few weeks to review that. And we was going to get Brian to speak on that, but I believe that we have come to an agreement of 2 planting locations in that curb lawn for a relatively large species planting, just based on the fact that there's no overhead wires or anything like that. Brian, is there anything that you want to kind of speak on?
You're saying that you want to go forward with the removal?
Well, that was the basis, or that was the common consensus last month, is that if we could identify, or that if they could identify 2 suitable planting locations within that curb lawn space there, that weren't going to pose quite a hindrance to the house the way the current tree is, with the falling limbs and damages done to the house, that would be approved.
I'm still in the boat of not removing it
Okay.
because there's almost no way that 2 trees is equal value to the city that 1 tree provides. Even if those 2 trees did survive to the existence of that tree, the tree is probably over 130 years old. And if those 2 trees did exist, it would take over 70 years or so before we even profit back on that 1 tree removal. So that's not an equal replacement to me.
Okay. I guess, Dave, we'll let you kind of speak more about that. If you want to maybe describe a little more, we all reviewed this last month. So I feel like a lot of the facts are given, but certainly if you want to speak on that, you're more than able to.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know if there was anybody that's here right now that wasn't here last month, but my neighbors, especially the one directly next door, and I have really been just having so many issues with this tree. First and foremost, the limbs that have been falling, you guys haven't seen them because I remove them when that happens, but the limbs that have been falling, yes, this tree is healthy, but there are live limbs that are falling that have super healthy leaves on them, and some of these are about 3 to 4 inches wide. We have branches fall that are also dead that fall on the roof and dent the roof. And for sure, if someone were to get hit by these, it would no doubt kill them or really injure them. My neighbor, she had a tree in her front yard and the same thing was happening. That was removed, but now she's having a lot in her yard that are falling from our tree. There's been significant damage to our porch and just in general from this tree being so big. We have no sun on our front porch, and the front of our home has suffered a lot of rot. And we are doing our best to comply with the city and do our best to preserve these historic homes, which they require. And all of a sudden now, it's making it very, very difficult for us to do that. I mean, we're paying over $3,000 to get our porch fixed, and we put in this money for, to maintain and paint this house. And when it rains, our home is wet for days. Our front yard is wet. And, the gutters are clogged literally all the time. And that just really damages the house too. It almost just kind of feels like, I love trees and this tree is beautiful, but it's causing so many issues. And I really appreciate everyone's help of coming out and understanding, and Brian and Anthony coming out. But, my neighbor is very fond of a tree going in front of her house. I have no problem with one, and we're willing to pay for that and make this happen. But this is just becoming the benefit of having it doesn't even come close to how many issues we're having. There's so many issues, and no one that I've talked to, and I'm willing to have them provide that in writing, no one has been opposed to this. They've actually all been in favor. I have moss growing on my roof from the shade. My neighbor has moss growing. Our front porch roof has original copper edging that's all dented from branches. And, this is something that I really don't want to have to get, involved with having to file complaints of the damage it's causing to our house that we're trying to preserve. We're trying to make this neighborhood nice. And we have 2 other rental properties that we've renovated in this neighborhood. But when this, monster tree is making it difficult and also posing a threat to people walking by, I mean, I have photos and they're on there of these branches that are perfectly healthy that are falling every time we have a storm. It's not just every couple weeks or something. This is all the time. We have these branches falling, and, we're very, very willing to comply and pay to have this tree removed, which is going to be very expensive, and then pay for more trees to be planted, which I feel like is kind of making a pretty big sacrifice there for something that already we're taking a hit for. So that's really all that we're asking. We're asking everybody just to consider, from our point of view, the amount of damage it's caused us and what it's going to continue. And lastly, when you look at the tree, there's one branch specifically that's like a kind of a V, these branches that come out. And down the street, there was that same thing happening. And I know that was repaired with a big bolt, a big metal steel rod that was put through it. But one day, if that does split, the branch that's going to come is going to come toward our house and for sure destroy the house. I mean, we don't even feel safe all the time being in the front yard when branches fall. It's just the way it is. So that's what we're willing to do. That's what we're coming to propose. And I really just hope people can, just consider that we're giving back to the neighborhood. It's not like we're trying to get this tree cut down just to make it easier in the fall for our leaf removal. We're trying to beautify this neighborhood, and preserving historic homes is a part of that. And I'm sure anyone who is in the historic preservation program would agree that it's really causing a lot of issues, and this needs to be addressed.
Sure. I'm going to screen share and show some of those pictures that were presented last month, just for the members that were not here last time. Give me just 1 second. Hey, Joe, or IT, I'm not sure who's in on this meeting. I'm not able to screen share.
One moment, Anthony. You should be good now.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone see that? Can everyone see that screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, so this is the tree in question. This is the property owner's home. This is the adjacent neighbor who we had met with previously, that's being referenced. This curb lawn space between here and here was what we were hoping to, identify 2 locations for being proposed. You see it's a large tree. And some of the concern being conveyed is just how far over this is the house. Now, we have been out here previously and completed work orders for any hazardous trimming, correct, Brian?
Yep, and we printed off the second house to the right of that as well. We
Okay.
also did a corrective pruning because someone had done some illegal pruning on it. I don't know who, but someone did.
Okay. And also with that, I mean, speaking to dangerous trees, I guess it's a fair time to mention, when we assess these trees throughout the city, we are trying to evaluate for that hazard, for any kind of public harm that it could do to pedestrians, to vehicles, to property. So that is something that we're not derelict in that, and cognizant of the hazards that are proposed. But when Brian has been out here previously, it's his assessment that this is not a tree that rises to that occasion. And that's why this is before the tree committee for removal from the resident, because of their concern and their wish to have it removed. Some of the pictures that were sent to us from last time. Damage done to the house. And this is more pertaining to it not being able to dry out correctly?
Correct. And then also, and my neighbor Sandy mentioned that a lot. I don't know, one of the photos shows that it's not only that, it's also the branches falling. So I know that when the city has come out and it's assessed that, this tree isn't a hazard, it is a hazard, because Sandy's the one too. I mean, you can see that branch right there. That was just from not even a big rainstorm. And that branch was about 4.5, 5 inches wide. So to be said that it's not a hazard at all, just isn't a true statement, because we're the ones that see the branches, and Sandy pointed out that she has seen branches in there too. And it, ultimately it's causing issues, and it's not only just damage to the home, but it's just a potential risk for someone. And what's it going to take? Someone walking by and getting hit, and then that's going to be on the city, or this huge branch falling onto the house or something. It's like, already I'm the one now that has to pay for that, and I'm expected to restore and fix everything to be exactly how it used to be, which that's a really big expense. And for us already, being willing to take this tree down and then plant 2 more out of our own pocket on top of that, that's a lot of money right there. I know that it's going to be a big expense, but we have to do it. And we don't want to wait until, this branch comes down and kills someone or it falls on the house. I mean, who's going to be responsible for that? It's going to be the city's responsibility. So we're just asking for leeway in this, that, you guys can consider that. And just, there are gigantic trees all along this street. And there's one across the street that's even wider than this one. It's gigantic. That's in a person's actual yard. But, our neighbor's very fond of having a tree in front of her house, and we're willing to do that and then pay for it too. So everybody listening, we really ask that you guys just consider that. We're doing our best to make this city beautiful with our 3 historic properties, 2 of them being rentals, this one being our own personal property. And, this needs to be addressed, and we're really just asking for consideration for this.
Are there any tree committee members that have any comments or would like to weigh in or ask any questions?
Well, I don't understand why a historic tree is valued less than a historic house.
Why the historic tree is valued less? Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, I mean, trees as they age, as people age, have certain conditions. So they have limbs that drop, squirrels drop limbs, things happen when trees age. So I'm kind of hearing you telling me that because the tree is aged, it doesn't fit your criteria anymore of where you would like it to be. So I kind of agree with Brian. It's a historic tree. It's the size and the amount of crown cover it provides for the city is kind of critical. And 2 smaller trees does not really equal that particular desire by the city.
The tree has nothing to do with our criteria. The tree is a liability. It could damage our house. Our house is a very beautiful, very historic house that a lot of people recognize when they think of Kalamazoo. Our house is going to be featured in multiple magazines. My husband is a pro skater, and we have photographers and filmers here all the time. This house means a lot to us. That tree does not, because that tree is a threat to our home. It's a threat to our family. It's a threat to the countless people we have over to our house. Those pictures that you saw, those branches were falling when we had painters here, and they felt really unsafe. And if you ask me if I'm thinking a family's home or a tree, I'm gonna pick the home every time.
We do love, we love how great and big, this tree is beautiful, and we do respect historic trees. It definitely has a lot of character. But when it comes to the point where the negative effects and the dangers exceed that, it's not working out. It's, there are lots and lots of old trees on this street, but if you guys come out and look at it, if you look at it from a side view, it literally is leaning toward the house. And because of how many issues it's causing, it just, like I said, it's becoming very, very overwhelming, not only as a huge expense for us in striving to keep this home, preserve its historical features, but then also just for safety. We are, more than willing to have even, if we need a larger trees planted or something that's not going to be causing this many issues. There are more issues than what I've even listed. I mean, when it rains, just right now during fall with all the leaves falling, the street, the gutters in the street and the curbs are literally so full of leaves that when it rains, water comes up our driveway and just goes uphill literally on the street. So it's clogging that, and it clogs our gutters, which we can't even go up and clean because they're way too high. And our neighbor, she didn't attend this meeting because unfortunately she sleeps during the day and then works at night. But when Anthony and Brian came out, she was she's on the same page as us because she has moss on her roof. We have moss on our roof, and not to sound like a broken record, but there's too many things that are happening, and it's all because this tree is just too big and leaning toward our house. If it were a little bit a ways, then it'd be tolerable, but at this point it's just not tolerable, even with the trimming that's happened and has happened in the past. So we do value, we love the historic neighborhood. We love doing everything we can to make this neighborhood beautiful. But I mean, geez, when people are walking by, they literally sometimes have to walk on the grass to get away from a huge branch. It's just laying in the front yard. And then I'm having to deal with it every time.
Brian, do you think that any of those trimmings that y'all have done, I don't know how many iterations you've been out there for, but do you think that those trimmings mitigated any of those hazards that are being mentioned?
For the most part, any large tree is going to pose, or any trees are living things, so every tree has a certain amount of risk and hazard no matter what. And as trees age, they get bigger, and they obviously with the size increases the risk, right? So because there's going to be more damage, right? But from what I see, there is very little risk with that tree in regards to things that could happen in the future. There's no dead wood in the crown. There's no real weight issues. I didn't see any rot or ant damage or termite damage. A ton of those Norway maples on that block have what they call black tar fungus, which is not necessarily going to kill the tree, but it's not helpful. That tree is in such good condition that doesn't have that. It's the same species, and every other tree on that block has it, but that one does not.
So, in your opinion, I mean, you'd say that it's healthy at worst.
It's surprisingly enough for a tree that age into that species, it's actually doing a lot better than I would expect.
Okay.
My assumption is the previous someone had paid a lot of attention to that tree previously to keep it in such good condition.
So,
Sorry,
I'd really like to hear from any other members if there was any other comment or input. Be interested to hear.
Well, the other thing, Anthony, is there's no power lines there. And so it's kind of nice to have an area where you can put a big tree.
Correct. Yeah, that was something that Brian and I noticed. Brian, Steve.
Although it's ruled as a healthy tree, which I don't doubt, the thing is it's still dropping branches though. And like with the tree this size, the branches are not small. So like, yeah, if it were dead and it were dropping branches, then like that's a problem. But it's alive and it drops branches. It is a regular thing that happens. Anytime we have rain or wind, there's branches all over and they dent the house and they fall in the front yard. And then two, we just put an $8,000 fence right on the sidewalk, and we have got it approved by the historic district and it adds value. And then for sure, a branch falls on that, it's done. It's
Sure.
An aluminum fence. But the branches that are falling, even though it's healthy, they're large enough to seriously injure or kill someone.
And it's not like the branches are going to get smaller. They're going to get bigger and it's going to get worse.
So, and that's again
Healthy
something we talked about when we made that site visit, is the city realizing that liability and that assessment. I mean, that does fall on us, and that's when we rely on technical ability, knowledge, and prior experience to make that decision. And that's why that tree's still standing today, and that's also why those trimmings were done to prune, knowing what's at stake. The city certainly does not want any of those things to happen to anybody. But I'd really like to hear any other committee comments. I think the facts are presented. You've seen the pictures. I'd like to move towards a motion at some point, but would really like to hear if Brian or Steve have any other comment.
Not at the moment.
Other Brian.
Oh,
I understand the concern with the tree and the dropping, but it is a large tree and you just can't replace that. So, I got mixed feelings on it. I understand their point, but I also understand trying to protect the trees that we have in Kalamazoo. Well, I'm not sure that I would be in favor.
Okay. Steve, any comment before someone makes a motion?
No, I think my views fall along the same lines as everyone else.
Well, I think I should say that, if this is not going to be approved to get this taken down, we, for sure, for the safety of us and others, we will have to start pursuing getting someone on this to make a proposition to get this taken down by an attorney or something, just because, that if this isn't going to work, then that's the decision that we're going to have to make. So I'm just letting everybody know that, with just at least everybody just consider being put in our shoes and just, this is something that was planted however long ago, 150, 200 years ago. And now it's something that, even though that was even before the city was established, it's causing so many issues. And then that's just thrown on us. It's just, it's going to take either someone dying or our house getting like completely devastated, and then us expected to bring it back to be exactly how it was.
Which this house will not be able to be.
It will never
brought
be
back
able to be
how
brought
it is.
back, especially with how hard it is to comply already with the Historic Commission. So
I understand that everyone keeps saying you understand where we're coming from and you are concerned about people's safety, but I'm just not seeing that. Being honest, being straight up, I'm not seeing that. Didn't see it whenever you guys came out to look at the tree, and our neighbors were here and they're just as concerned, if not more. There just seems to be a lack of interest there. And if this tree really is such a big deal for being so historic and so big, then I would expect for you guys, the city, to take pride in it and to come out here and take care of it a lot better, because it took a lot for us to get people out here to even trim it. So it's kind of like it didn't even matter. It's causing all these problems, and now it's like so important that we keep this tree where it is. My husband is much more patient and much more kind than I am, and I've grown pretty impatient. It's very frustrating because this tree is a huge issue. Our house is constantly full of people and a lot of kids, young kids, and I can't have them in the front yard. I can't, especially on a windy day, especially in the fall, because it's not safe. We have a ton of foot traffic in front of the house. People don't feel safe walking in front of the house, not even our neighbor Sandy. She lives there. That feels a little ridiculous. So I'll leave now because, again, my patience has kind of run out. We've been trying to be that way about this, but again, we will have to bring attorneys and insurance into this because this is very big. So.
That sentiment is understood. There's certainly.
Hey, Anthony.
Sure.
Should we have the trees cost evaluated by an arborist that can tell us what the value of the tree is, that's gone through the tree evaluation class through ASM, to see how much the tree is worth in its current condition?
And I mean, just in.
So what they do is that
I-
they'll come out, they'll come out and evaluate the tree. They'll evaluate the age, the size, the location, its health, and then they'll give us a value for the tree. So, they could value the tree based on species, location, height, and everything, anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000. That would be the value of the tree.
Okay.
And then we could propose that they would pay the city back the value of the tree plus the 2 plantings and the removal.
I mean, that's certainly a motion worth entertaining and taking to vote. My kind of counter to that, not that I'm necessarily even opposed to it, but the counter would be that it comes down to measuring the benefit that tree provides to the city, aesthetically, environmentally. Again,
Which would be which would be part of the evaluation by a certified arborist.
Okay.
So the certified arborist would consider all those things in the evaluation of the tree. It would be something that if you went to court that you would need to have, that would say, you know, this is the size, this is the environment. It takes into consideration all of those things. So it would tell us what the value that the city is losing of the tree.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's that, again, certainly a motion worth making. I'd still, you know, open that to comment from other committee members.
What if we had the possibility of seeking out, we have another property 5 houses away, and in front of that home, it's an even bigger stretch of grass that we don't, it's bigger than the stretch of grass we have out front here. What if we were willing to plant 2 in front of that house? So that'd be 4 trees planted. We'd plant 2 where this one was, and then 2 in front of that, because right now it's currently just a huge gap with no trees. You know, we're willing to really work with you guys and do that. And I think down the line, that would be 4 trees in place of 1, you know, at our expense. You know, we're willing to do that. And then we even have another property in Kalamazoo. It does have a tree currently, but, you know, we're willing to work in that sense too, to plant even more than that. It's right on our street, Stuart, and there's no trees for about 40 feet. So we'd be willing to plant more there too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily the planting of the trees. It's the value of the tree as it stands.
Right, and because, you know, how many plantings could that evaluation create, as opposed to, you know, that would be significantly more and probably more equitable.
Those type of you would probably use an ISA method for that, because I think the ISA curates a way to evaluate these trees.
Yes,
and it sort of takes an effect sort of the replacement cost of 3-inch trees inside the diameter of the tree for the most part, or 2-inch replacements of the inside of the tree. Usually what it goes down to, but it also adds an effect. There's like a location, there's like a species that can either lower or higher the price. It's in a total valuation.
Correct. And Brian, you need to look at taking that course so that you can evaluate the trees in the city.
I don't think it would be a conflict of interest if I put an evaluation on a tree. I think, but
right, and it would be a conflict of interest.
I've done it previously.
Yes.
I've done it quite a bit previously, and my last position I did it quite often.
Right, and it would be a conflict if I did it too. That's why we would have to have a third party that we could hire that would give us an evaluation.
That would seem fair. So an evaluation to be done, I guess it would depend on the schedule for the third party, if we could get that done in time to come back to next month's meeting.
So
yeah, and I hate to drag it out on those individuals. Well, I hate to drag it out on you, but even if you're going to take the city to court, you're going to have to hire a certified arborist. So I think that the best interest of everybody would be for somebody to hire a certified arborist to give us the evaluation of the tree.
So that would be expected for me to do that before next month. And then if that did go through, then from there, pay to have this tree removed, which is probably over 5,000, then plant multiple trees, and then pay for the cost of what this tree has done to the house.
I would think that
that's a lot.
I would think that with that value provided, that we would not need to include supplemental plantings. We would be able to use those funds to include in our own planting projects in the future.
That is correct.
So from here, the best step then, are we agreeing upon me getting an arborist out here to find the value that the tree, or like what exactly am I asking them to provide? What the value of the tree overall?
Deb, would you like to give the details?
Yes, yes. So when a tree is going to be cut, that is under dispute, the certified arborist that has the tree risk management program that can evaluate the cost of the tree. Like Brian says, some trees are multi-sexed, and like, ginkgos, you don't want, female tree, so the value goes lower. So when you hire the certified arborist and you tell them you need a tree evaluation on what the tree is worth, they know what they're doing. And they'll know that it's a city tree and that it's towards the crown cover, so they'll consider that as part of their cost evaluation.
There's like an equation tool that the ISA is usually what they use, because that's the lay of the land pretty much.
So I'm going to call in them. I'm finding an arborist to give me a tree evaluation, and they'll supply me with that, and then I'll present that to you guys, whether that be this next month, which will be difficult, or the following month. I don't know if these meetings proceed into
Certainly.
the.
Just as soon as that's able to come back to the committee, that's fine. I mean,
Do you guys have these meetings in the winter as well?
we do.
Okay. All right. Well, looks like that's the next step then.
Well, that's assuming that motion passes. That we need to, I guess, take a vote on that if that's suitable for the committee.
So I move that based on a certified arborist evaluation of the cost of the tree,
Okay.
that those monies will be presented to the city for the removal of the tree at the customer's cost.
Can you repeat that last part? You went out there for a second.
I'm sorry, I'm down in Fulton. I was planting trees in the state game area today. The cost of the removal of the tree and then the evaluation of the tree would be paid by the resident.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? So moved. Yeah, and Dave, you can reach out to Brian and I if you have any questions about that moving forward. And then as soon as that information is collected, we'll have you back and we'll pick this back up again.
Okay. So just so I understand correctly. So after I'm asking this person to give an evaluation of the tree and to give a value of the tree, and then basically if all goes through, are we asking that they will pay the city that to cut it? Or like, how does this work exactly? I heard something about the money will be relayed to the city.
The value of the tree itself would then be included in the cost of removal, or not, would be given to the city as for additional plantings in the future in lieu of removing that large tree.
So who will give that money to the city for the plantings?
That would be you as the property owner.
Okay, so basically they come out, they find that the tree, let's say it's worth $5,000, and then you guys receive that information, then I would pay probably $5,000 or more to get this removed, and then I'd have to pay you guys whatever they say.
And again, I guess we've had this in the past where there have been donations wanting to be made. I think we would probably partner with a non-city affiliated nature conservancy or somebody, an arbor foundation that's going to just for transparency and to make sure that money is spent where it goes for that.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, everybody.
All right, so the next agenda item is 448 Burdick Street, but due to time constraint, if it's all right, I'd like to move the third item. Is that right? No, I'm looking at the wrong agenda, sorry. That's not right either. Does anybody have the next? I know that the next agenda item I wanted to be Ryan and your item. I guess you can go ahead and speak about it while I'm pulling up those documents.
All right, yeah, so we got, here at 1415 North Harrison Street, it's the city-owned wastewater treatment plant. We are looking at, constructing an odor and gas withdrawal biofilter system here. So that way, any gases and odors that are generated within our sewer networks that are connected to our plant can then be treated before being exhausted into the local atmosphere. And to do that, the location in which we would be needing basically, to construct that infrastructure is within the region that was on the screen there that does have some trees currently on it. And so we're looking at removing those trees so that way we can construct the infrastructure, so that way we can treat the odors and the gases that are emitted from the sewer system, so that way we are no longer exhausting those into the atmosphere for the community members to inhale.
And Brian, I don't know if you made it out to this site, but how many trees and what size, what kind of condition?
I haven't made it out there.
Okay. Ryan, how many trees are proposed?
I haven't put a number on it, but there's a lot of, again, I'm not a tree guy, I apologize for that, but there's a lot of what I'm gonna call scrub trees.
Uh-huh.
I have Aaron, our consultant, here as well, that, probably knows more about this than I do.
Yeah, we went and looked at it before this meeting. I think it's 6 or 7 14 to 18 inch diameter sycamores, and I think 3 14 to 18 inch silver maples. The rest of it is sub 6 inch brush, mature brush.
And I think one half disease pine tree. I think that white pine.
Oh yeah, that one white pine needs to come down, but it's dying.
Yeah, and then there's a couple little scrub crab apples.
Right.
That have not been maintained.
But yeah, for trees of significance, it's a couple of silver maples and some sycamores.
Ryan, what's your time frame for this, that you're trying to get this work done?
We're hoping to get the clearing and site work done yet before an absorbent amount of snow falls. I have 11 months to put power to this thing and turn the lights on, so that way we get beneficial use for the community. And to do that in the next 11 months, it was 12 months, we're 4 weeks in, but time is critical. So I know everybody says that the term yesterday is overused, but literally on this one, yesterday is the answer. However, I want to make sure that we're following, the guidance from your group and that we're doing the right thing, not only on the odor and gas emissions side of things that we're trying to abate, but also, on the tree canopy side, of things as well.
And I'm assuming for this, there were alternative sites considered, and I mean,
So given the nature and the network of our underground infrastructure, there's not a whole lot of other sites that we can put this that can draw from the connected sewer system. About the only other site that we probably could put this thing on and not cut trees down is taking out Graphics Packaging's property and their parking and parts of their wastewater treatment plant. So considering that we don't own it, and I don't foresee Graphics Packaging wanting to provide that property to the city, this is the most advantageous site considering the conduit and which, well, sewer systems, but we're using them as air conduits, to which we'd be drawing from.
yeah, and this is the only wastewater facility in the city, so that further limits
It's
your
the only one in the county.
only one in the county. Sorry.
Yeah, we are a county, our wastewater treatment plant takes all the sewage from Kalamazoo County that's connected to public sewer, as well as the village of Mattawan, as well as portions of, I believe it's Ross Township, that's on the northern edge of Gull Lake. So we're a regional wastewater plant. 54 MGD, average design, 96 million gallons a day, peak hour. Not a small little factory here.
Sure. And
And
have
go
you
ahead.
given any consideration to what you would be willing to reimburse or counter the loss of those trees?
Well, I guess that's kind of why I would be here at this meeting, is to seek guidance from the experts and professionals in this field. Since I myself do not have a specialty in arborist, that I don't believe that I'm the right person to make those propositions.
Okay. Any committee thoughts, questions, opinions?
I'm thinking until we have like an official policy for replacement values, it'd probably just be advantageous for 2-for-1 on these things, especially considering what was it, like 8 trees and none of them were that over 16 inches.
Anybody
it'd
else have any
be a
thoughts?
2-for-1 in my opinion.
Yeah, I concur with that.
Well, and you know, it is a high number of trees to remove, but I think one thing to consider is the positive environmental aspect that it, counters. I don't know exactly the science of how, or, what that comes out to, but I feel like that should be considered at the same time.
To comment on that, Anthony, we are currently in the process of undergoing, in partnership with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, a community air quality assessment study pertaining to gases emitted from the industrial sites within our geographic location. So we are partnering with them. They are concerned with air quality. So that's what's really driving our project, our capital project that kind of came in at the 11th hour, is to help the air quality side of that, which I do understand that, trees are the opposite side of that. Trees take that and, make clean air based on the tree canopy.
Sure.
So I do understand the uniqueness of where we need to cut down trees to build this thing as opposed to treat air, but.
I think irony is the word you're looking for.
That what?
I think irony is the word you're looking for.
Man, I was not a linguist either, Anthony.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that? I don't inherently have a problem with that proposal, Brian. I would say I don't know, what city-owned facilities we have in this area, but I would prefer the plantings be done in this immediate area, if possible.
Yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, we can work with our arborist to identify locations which would be advantageous to place these trees.
I think there might be some sites. I mean, even directly adjacent to or near that area. So I guess, can you, I guess, give us a best estimate or maybe even a high number of trees that you're proposing to remove so that we can propose a 2-to-1 to come up with a number?
We're looking at, from a quick assessment, about 10 trees.
Okay. So 20 trees, and also, for the benefit of improving air quality at the same time.
Yeah, so we'd be looking at placing 20 new trees within whatever radii that you guys would deem appropriate.
Yeah, and we can work with you on that as well. Any other thoughts, or should we go to a motion?
I'd go to a motion.
And that motion being?
A motion to replace 20 trees with locations to be determined later by wastewater and city arborist.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. Thank you, Ryan.
All right, thank you.
Oh, wow. I was going way out of agenda. I have the agenda now. See, Steve, Brian, were you going to talk about the Winchell Citizen Planting Project, or?
I believe she's on under my name, if I'm not mistaken. She's having difficulty, so I gave her the Zoom number. She told me to call.
If you don't mind, let me, let's talk about the Blakesley tank real quick, and then we will get right to that.
Okay.
Steve, while I pull this up, would you like to?
I sent over a couple pictures that I took of Blakely Tank. It's there are 2 trees on either side of our entrance to the control room at the tank. Tom Kroperitz has kind of more of a background on those, but mostly it interferes with, those trees interfere with the radio communication for our water pumping and storage facilities. We use high-speed radios to communicate from our sites, and the radio is mounted on a pole. Tom, take it away if you want.
Okay, looks like the picture's up on the screen, and you can see the little building there. That goes down 2 stories below grade, The grass that you see in the background is the soil covering for a 7.5 million gallon tank of water. So you get a perspective as to what we're dealing with. When was that built? 1932?
1932.
1932. So right now you can see one antenna that is on the little shed there, but that is a temporary unit that is talking to a tank about 1/4 mile away, but that tank is going to be decommissioned and out of the infrastructure as far as communication goes. There's another pole, but I'm not sure you can see it. That's a temporary install to the right of the building.
Right
You
here?
can see the sandbags. Yeah, you can see the sandbags on the ground,
Uh-huh.
and that's holding a temporary pole up, but it's kind of moving around in the breeze. We have to get that pole up about 15 feet or so to be able to talk to another water tank that's near Drake Road and 131. So the tree directly to the right there, we'd be up in the branches. And then the other tree that's to the west actually of that, in the second picture, I think you can see it. There you go. That tree to the west is directly in the communication path to that other tank as well. So we need those trees removed so we can use this to communicate to our SCADA system for water operations and distribution.
Ryan, have you been out to this site?
Couple times.
Is I don't suppose trimming in any way, shape, or form is an option?
Depending on how long you get that antenna going, you could move the antenna.
To where?
Well, I mean, I don't know how open the antenna would need to be, but it's just, I don't know. The trees are in good shape.
The trees are right on top of the tank, frankly. The tank is probably about maybe about 1.5 to 2 feet below the surface of the grade right there. So those trees are actually sitting right on top of the concrete roof. We've had cracks develop on top of the tank in the past that we had to cut in or basically repair. Not horribly far away from this location. I don't know if they're contributing to that as well. It's possible, I suppose. But yeah, those trees are sitting right on top of the tank.
Yeah, I was wondering that, how that affects the tank there.
Probably not the best location for a tree.
So did I hear, I mean, these communications that are needed, this is for a tank that's going to be abandoned in the next year?
No, the current antenna that is strapped to the building,
Uh-huh.
that's talking to a tank that's going to be decommissioned sometime soon and is no longer going to be in the infrastructure, at least as far as water distribution or a point where we'll have a high altitude to have communications.
He's referring to Dartmouth
Dartmouth
elevated storage.
tank, yeah.
That one's had several leaks over the past several years, and it's at the end of its lifespan. It's in a difficult location and needs to. Well, we built the new tower next to 131 to replace it. So yeah, it's up right now. We need to empty it. It'll be taken down at a to be determined date.
So this tank is, Blakely tank is a major part of the water infrastructure. And so we need to know what levels of liquid are in there. And the communication infrastructure right now has that to where we need to talk to Beach Tank, which is over by Drake Road and 131. We have set up a communication ring around the entire county, utilizing the tops of as many of the water tanks as we can, but we originally planned to use Dartmouth tank, but then as we started doing the design, it was determined that that tank was going to probably go away, so we didn't want to put infrastructure on it. So at this point, the old part of the old communications infrastructure was through Dartmouth tank. That's being eliminated, so we have to communicate to a different tank.
Okay. And I mean, are these the only trees that are inside that fence perimeter? Is that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And as Steve says, it's sitting on top of the tank structure.
Sure. I know you guys have a lot of planting space, maybe not in this immediate area or inside the perimeter of that fence.
Inside that fence, we'd still be on top of the tank. It's really not a
Correct.
location.
Right. But I know from your, your well fields and things like that, you have plenty of available property.
Yeah, water stations in particular have a lot of room for trees.
Yeah, we have, there's a lot of space that we could do, planning, for if we need to replace it.
Sounds like it's an important location with a location that's about to be more important in not too long from now.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good place for trees, especially if it's critical infrastructure.
Right. I do think given the, if we were to approve it, I think given the size of the tree and the amount of planting space available that you have, I would probably try to request something a little more than the 2-to-1. Maybe try for 4 plantings, 2-to-1, have 4
Yeah, I think
plantings.
the water department would be happy to plant 4 trees per tree, so 8 total.
Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments on that?
Well, what's going to happen with the area where they're going to remove the Dartmouth or whatever tank? Is that area going to become just city property?
To be determined. Basically, it sits. One of the reasons why it's not the greatest location for a tank is it's right in between several houses. It's basically in a couple of houses' backyards. There's a small access drive to get back to it. And it's just a tough maintainable spot. I don't know, I suppose theoretically, you could potentially build a house there in the future, but I don't know that it necessarily would be a good spot to build a house. It might just be give the property over to the adjoining neighbors, potentially. Once that goes down, we probably could plant a few trees on the property. I just don't know when that date of the tower coming down is going to be.
No, I was just wondering if there could be future plantings on that spot, but if it's a limited access location in a neighborhood, it may not be reasonable.
Yeah.
It was just a thought.
Yeah, it's the tank pretty much encompasses the property that it sits on. We looked at trying to rehab the tank, and it's just so site constrained, you can't do it.
Any other discussion that needs to be had, or is there a motion to make?
I would motion that the water department plants 8 trees at a nearby or at a few nearby water stations to replace the encompass the removal of these 2 trees.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion's passed. It is unfortunate. I think these trees are in good condition, but when you factor in the available planting space and it being a critical infrastructure service to provide, again, to a large area of people, I think that has to play a part in the conversation.
The larger they get, the more likely you are to have a significant problem with the cracking on top of it too, because tree roots tend to grow towards water. Like you said, it's 2 stories deep, but I wouldn't put it past a tree to put a root down there.
True.
Probably why they're in good shape.
We haven't seen any roots come through yet, but that is a yes. It's shallow.
Thank you. Okay. Only remaining agenda item is the Winchell Citizen Planting Project.
Yeah, I'm calling her right now.
Okay.
I can just do it. It's all good.
Okay. Floor is yours, Brian.
No, I'll be all right. So basically, this lady is going to, Rebecca is going to pay for these trees in the Winchell neighborhood. If you could put up the documents, I believe there's a couple documents in there of location and species, and along with myself and Ben from Molders, who's going to be taking care of the trees. I don't know exactly how long of a guarantee she's got from them. I think it's either a year or 2. He's going to plant those trees. He's going to call out the markouts, and he's going to get gator bags so they have a higher chance of survival. I believe it was somewhere in the range of 30 or 40 trees, somewhere in that range, all along White's Road, Tipperary, and some of the other areas around there.
Ryan, I don't have that in my packet. I don't know if
Really
that easily accessible to screen share.
Give me a second. I should have. Yep. If you give me access, I got it under control.
Let's see. All right.
Okay, so share screen. All right, there we go. See, you guys got that?
I think you're sharing the wrong screen. It's just blank.
Oh, really?
There we go. You're good.
All right, so these are all the addresses and locations. All of them I went through personally with Becky to make sure they had the adequate space needed for a medium or large or small with regards to height and vertical distance of planting space. And these are all the addresses, and these are all the species. These species are all basic species. It's just that she chose a lot of varieties. I'm guessing Bennett Molders had some interesting varieties. Like that's just a calorie pear. That's just a certain cherry, not just a different variety of thornless hawthorn. That's just obviously red bud. That's a specific type of ginkgo that's male, so you don't get problems. The London plane tree, which is a hybrid, crabapple, dogwood, Kentucky coffee. So they're all, it's a wide variety, so you don't have any overlapping issues with planting them in one small location, the same exact variety over and over again. So that is the project.
And you said total is somewhere between 30 and 40?
Let's see, I didn't total the exact number.
This is all city right of way, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, it's pretty substantial.
Yep. This Becky really enjoys trees, and she wanted some trees in her neighborhood, and I decided we should try to help her out, and so we can get it going. And basically, it's just going to be a big planting.
Hard to argue that. Any idea of when they would want to?
I believe as soon as they can.
Okay.
Before the winter.
So my question, did they take power lines into consideration? That's why there's so many small species?
You are correct. I walked through the site with her with a sort of a book of different species of trees, and I was old enough that probably a lot of these didn't exist, these varieties. But I went and picked out, I gave her a list that said this could be large, medium, or small. And I also put in there, I didn't see her do it, but I put in there like some columnar species that could exist in here, because you have overhead height, but you might not have, horizontal height type of thing, or distance, I should say. But yeah, everything is with regards to that.
And you'd be able to provide, all the necessary documentation on procedures and references to, those same MDOT specs and city policy, city procedure that we've included in that our tree planting project for bid.
Yeah. I don't foresee a whole lot of problems considering Molders does this as a business. And they have been, I believe, pretty reputable business in this Kalamazoo area for a while, but we can guide them in that case for sure.
And you had mentioned something about maybe some sort of, would we immediately take maintenance, or were they planning on doing some sort of watering schedule or anything like that?
I think it's a mixture of Molders for the initial, and I believe Becky's going to do some kind of watering.
Cool.
Yep. And that's what the gator bags are for, to help with that as well.
It's hard to argue a project like that. Pretty welcomed from my point of view.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to be made?
I motion to allow it.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Brian.
Yep.
So, seeing how I went ahead and went off the wrong agenda and started with the old business first, that 418 Stuart Avenue was the first item discussed in old business. The Bank Street realignment project, that is still in the design phase. I do not have an update on that yet, but I have been in contact with the engineering consultant, and we are still committed to picking, appropriate species and planting literally as many tree species as we can for that site. Question on that or comment? Moving down to the next portion, public comment. Do we have any?
We have no public comments at this time.
Okay. Committee comments. Are there any committee questions, comments? Moving forward, I guess my one comment is, Brian and I have had some more ongoing discussion, not scheduled yet, but to have another tree committee working meeting sometime in November, I think ideally, just to discuss a few issues and kind of review our policy documents and guidance as a committee. And I think moving forward, probably a good habit to get into, to have a couple of meetings, maybe a spring and a fall, or summer and winter, something to meet as a committee and work through those issues and review policy. So thank you, everybody, for your time. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I'll second it. I don't know if I can, but I will.
All right.
All right. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your time today.
Yep. You have a good one.